Hello guys, Mark the Bowlerhat Farmer, and you might see a new bowler hat. This is because a very kind lady, when we were in Lyndhurst the other day, donated it to me with my new feather, you'll see. So for today we're going to be downing a new attire. Now, the other day I had the chance to go and meet with a company called Mad Company, and they were proper mad. The things they're delivering and what they're doing. And most of you will know that I've been pretty outspoken over the course of the years about my thoughts on food. And one of the things which I've been very outspoken against is using bug protein in food system. And I went to meet these guys, and they're using, they're making and producing things from bugs. And I said, look, you know, before we do any filming, it's only fair for me to tell you my thoughts on this. And they said, well, it's interesting you say that because to bring to your attention that this protein from these soldier fly larvae won't go into the food supply chain. I said, okay, I've heard all this before. And they said, no, the thing is, Mark, it might do in 100 years' time, but it isn't going to now. Now, several things which I've investigated in all of this, going down the rabbit holes as I have, is that one, there is a poison inside the actual larvae. So if I just show you these little beauties in here, hopefully you'll be able to see them. These are the little larvae which wiggle about, and they are then ground up to make the protein. But on talking to these guys, the protein isn't the valuable bit. Now, in these is a thing called chitin or chitin, depending on how you pronounce it in the UK. I've always known it's chitin, but apparently it's chitin. Now, what I didn't know is that chitin, whilst it's poisonous to us, is extremely good for plants. So when they put it on the ground and it makes said cabbage leaf, let's look at, more resilient and more resistant to bugs. Now, what happens when Mr. Aphid comes along and he goes chomp, 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 on a weak plant, he would quite happily pull a bit out and eat it, leaving a hole in the plant. Now, that isn't how it works with chitin in the more chitin in the plant, because what happens is the chitin makes the leaves thicker. It makes them more glossy, so they can't get their teeth into it. So that's why one of the reasons why we end up with plants that are more resilient to attack from aphids, especially, than others. And that is one of the things which we can add to the ground to make plants stronger. Now, for me, as this conversation goes on and the journey thickens, as to say, I'm asking lots of questions because for me, I want to know that this stuff isn't going to go in the food supply chain, and why it isn't. Well, let's look at it. So the cost to the amount of protein they can produce from larvae, from these soldier fly, is very, very small amount of protein for the amount of cost of it. However, there is one thing what has come out of all this, that they can produce on large amounts via the flies, via the larvae, and that is this stuff. And I was blown away at, if I can show you in there, look at this. This is not a compost, let's be clear on that. This is an additive. You can add this around your plants, and it's just lovely. You'll see it's lovely and fine. That is the poo. That's all it is, the poo from the larvae. Now, they breed these little guys inside 40-foot containers. Inside the 40-foot container, there is the initial incubation period. Then they take the eggs and mix them in with food waste. Now, let's talk about this food waste for a moment. So this food waste is coming from people like breweries, dairies, food producers. This isn't your household waste. So anything and everything can be fed to these guys apart from meat. So what happens is that the guys take 10 ton of waste food. They put it in the incubator unit, and we incubate all the eggs on top of it. And as the larvae grow over the course of the next 10 days, they devour all of this stuff. And within 10 days, they can turn 10 ton of this food waste into 2.5 ton of the best nutritional soil, what you can then add to your plants, and you only need a little sprinkling around the top. This isn't something you need to dig in large amounts. You just sprinkle this stuff around the top, and that is the valuable bit. That's full, and I mean full, of vitamins and minerals. Now they also take some of the bugs that are left, and they cook them and grind them up, and that is where they get the chitin from. And that's, again, that shell, that natural stuff, feeds into the ground. Now the big thing I noticed on their test beds when I was at the site was the amount of insects about, and they say that that comes about because the shells of the larvae are very, very high in the scent that the insects like naturally to come and find. So if you want to encourage insects into your garden and not have the concern about them eating your plants, then the chitin is a great way to go. And the compost is this feed is a great way to go. Now, these guys have been researching this for years. I went in there very skeptical, I have to say. I went in there with the approach that I know everything there is to probably know about the research, what's been done on this stuff, all apart from the fact that I thought it was all being produced to go into the food supply. And they're saying, well, actually, that's the least valuable point of it. So it was great to go and meet the guys down at Mad Company. The guys are on a mission, I would say, on a mission to be in the position to produce the best horticultural and agricultural things, to produce better quality food. I was really impressed, blown away, to be honest. And we've had the chance, Gloria and I, down in Cornwall at the moment. Don't know if you can see, but we're living in a bell tent. We've had the opportunity to come down here to Somerset. We are working on some beds just over there at the moment where the electroculture is going to be installed in the next week by the guys who installed mine. They're coming down here to do a little project. So I've been tidying up around some of the veg beds this morning, getting the weeds out, getting things ready, and putting some of this beautiful, beautiful little stuff down. I'm really impressed with this. As you know, I don't get paid to promote this stuff. I just do it because I love it. So guys, like, share, subscribe if you would, and we'll put some details in of the Mad Company so you can see whereabouts you can get this from. And more importantly for me, this is producing really good stuff, what we can produce really good food from, and it's removed my concern about that shite, the protein and the chitin going into me and my family, which is what my concerns were, and they blew me away when they said that, that won't be about another 100 years. Well, we'll all be gone by then, guys, so don't worry. Big love, Mark.